Today we will be reviewing Chapter 6, and we will be covering the knots required for this course. Your knowledge objectives for this chapter are to discuss the role of knots in the high-angle environment and identify specific knots used in the high-angle environment and describe how they work. The high-angle rope rescuer must be able to tie knots correctly, confidently, and without hesitation, and must know the way these knots are used. You may be in danger to yourself, to a rescue subject, and to your fellow rescuers if you go into a high-angle environment without these knot skills. There are many elements that take place in a high-angle environment. Throughout our lecture, we're going to go over anchoring systems, knot craft, and why we back up our knots with a safety in creating emergency ascenders. Knot usages come in a variety of situations, such as creating certain belay systems, tying safety lines, improvising when other elements of the system fail, and extricating yourself from unexpected difficulties. Some more important elements in the high-angle environment is our belay system, as well as tying safety lines and preparing ourselves when elements fail and self-extrication from unexpected difficulties arise. When these unexpected difficulties arise, what personal gear might you want to have with you if the situation were to develop? You may want to have a few extra items like carabiners, Prusik cords, Aztec kits, and so on. Group training sessions for high-angle rope rescue work should begin with a review of knots. Rope technicians should be able to tie these knots under stress. Maintaining our skills is extremely important. As you know, if you don't keep training on our skills, it will dissipate very quickly. You will need to continually tie knots, and as a good practice before you start any of your rope training, you should practice tying knots together. You should know how to tie the same knot several different ways and be able to identify when a knot is tied correctly as well as incorrectly, especially when stress arises. Some qualities of a good knot would be that it is easy to tie and being able to identify the knot as being tied correctly. Also, it is a good practice to use knots that will remain tied throughout your use. Also, some more good qualities of a knot is that it will have minimal effect on the overall rope strength. You should also choose a knot that is fairly easy to untie after the knot has been loaded. Every knot affects the rope a little differently. The knots that we are going to be using will have a relatively high knot efficiency. You need to remember that every knot diminishes the strength of the rope, and the sharper the bend, the weaker the knot will be. The rope fibers on the outside of the bend carry most of the load of the rope. The fibers on the inside of the bend carry very little of the load or none at all. As many of you know, we collectively think that the figure 8 on a bight is a strong knot. As we do agree, we also have a list of some knots that we will be using throughout our class, and they too have similar knot efficiency strengths. At one time, there was a lot of controversy with the Bowline and if it should be used as a rescue knot or a utility knot. That is no longer the case. As you can see, the knot efficiency is similar to the rest. Plus, you can use the Bowline knot in many applications. A safety knot is going to be crucial in many of the knots that we tie. As you progress throughout your training, you will find out what knots do not require a safety knot. For our class, we are going to strive to see a safety knot on our knots. One of the main things that we need to make sure is that the safety knot is as close to your main knot as possible. Dressing and compacting knots is extremely important. If it isn't dressed and compacted correctly, it could affect the overall performance and cause the knot to fail. With the example here, you see the figure 8 on a bight. The green rope has been dressed and compacted correctly and it will lay flat. As you look at the orange rope, you can see that the rope doesn't align well and that there is void spaces in the knot. That should be a dead giveaway that it hasn't been tied correctly. After the knot has been tied, that is when you will dress and compact the knot. Dressed means that the strands align and are uncrossed, and compacted means that the ends are pulled down so that the knot is compacted. When you first start learning how to tie a knot, it may be easier to have large loops. But as you start practicing and getting familiar with how to tie the knot, you should make your loops only large enough as needed. Having a loop that is too large may cause you to snag items and could increase your chances of side-loading the carabiner. Over the next several slides, we're going to talk about knot tying terminology. The knots that we are going to be tying in this class will be using the basic principles. A bight of a rope is simply a shaped section of the rope that does not cross itself. A loop is simply a full circle formed by passing the working end of the rope over itself. A turn is a single pass of rope behind an object. A hitch is a knot that attaches to or wraps around an object or rope in such a way that when the object or rope is removed, the knot falls apart. In the next several slides, we're going to go over the working end, standing end, and running end of the rope. In this illustration, the working end is pointing towards the top of the rope. At the top of the rope is where the knot is attached to the anchor. The knot is going to be the working end. The standing part of the rope is the part not active in knot tying. It will be between the working end and the running end. The running end will be the portion of rope for lowering or hauling, or that will touch the bottom when rappelling. The running end in this illustration will be the portion of rope that will be below the person that is rappelling. The simple figure eight is going to be the starting point in learning how to tie the rest of the figure eight's family of knots. A figure eight on a bight is simply the loop formed when the rope is doubled back on itself. A figure eight on a bight is used as a secure loop in a rope for clipping in hardware. You will find that you will use this knot in a lot in this class. Some of the drawbacks of this knot is that it can be difficult to untie after it is being loaded. The figure eight follow through is used when you cannot tie a figure eight on a bight. You have to make a simple figure eight first and then come back and retrace the figure eight. You will need to pay particular attention when you retrace this knot. This is where we see a lot of mistakes when we do not follow the bends correctly. The figure eight bend is used to connect two ropes together. It is important that the rope is similar size and diameter. This also starts out as a simple figure eight and is retraced with the other rope. When finished, the tails of the rope should be opposite from each other. Make sure that you have plenty of rope left over for your safety knots. The inline figure eight is designed to be pulled in one direction. It is used to create a loop in the middle of the rope. It can be used to create handholds for a haul line and to create additional anchor points. Some of the disadvantage of this knot is that it can be difficult to untie after loading, and if the knot is pulled in the opposite direction, the knot could fail. The double figure eight loop can be made as an improvised seat. More commonly, it will be used to equalize a load on two anchors. The bowline has many variable applications in the rope rescue. Some of the crucial things that you'll need to pay particular attention to is to make sure that the bowline is tied correctly. If the bowline is tied incorrectly, it is known as a false bowline, and that knot is known to fail. It is imperative that you have a safety knot. The high-strength bowline provides a more secure loop than the regular bowline. You are simply tying a bowline by adding another half hitch, in which you end up with forming a clove hitch around your loop. The knot is usually easier to untie after being loaded. Also, for many people, this is a preferred knot to be used in water applications. The bowline on a coil is used to create an improvised litter spider, using 4 loops as the spider legs. The interlocking long-tail bowline is used for lowering litters and for raising operations. It is used to bring the main line and the belay line to a single point. The loops are going to be similar in size, which is important when you're hooking up your litters. The tails from a long-tail bowline are intended to tie in the rescuer and the victim for added safety. The butterfly knot is used to provide a secure loop in the middle of a rope. This knot is a good way to isolate that part of your rope that may become damaged during your rescue. This knot is also very versatile and can be loaded in multiple directions. The clove hitch is used for anchoring to rounded anchor points or objects. It can also be wrapped around an object that is closed at both ends. It is crucial that you use safety knots with the clove hitch. The double overhand knot is essentially one half of the double fisherman's knot. This knot is used to back up other knots and is a great knot to use for a stopper knot at the end of your rope. The grapevine knot, also known as the double fisherman's knot, is a knot that can be used to join two rope ends securely to form a longer rope or to form a loop. When using this knot, the rope shall also be similar in diameter. Some disadvantages of this knot is that it can be difficult to tell if it is tied correctly, and it can be difficult to untie after loaded. The munner hitch is used for one-person belays. The munner hitch is also subject to some controversy because it may be insufficient to control heavy rescue loads. You need to pay particular attention to the load amount that you are belaying. This hitch is relatively easy to make, but there are other alternatives to use when belaying heavy rescue loads. The Prusik hitch has many applications that you can use it in. It is a friction hitch or knot used to attach a loop of cord around a rope. Some of the more common uses are for belaying in tandem with other Prusik hitches. It's used for ascending a rope or used as a rope grab for safety. The Gurtej hitch is simply a sling or webbing used to securely choke down around an object. The water knot is used to join two pieces of webbing to form a longer piece or to form a loop. It is imperative that the webbing follows flat through the knot. You are needing at least 2 inches of tail remaining for your overhand safety knot. This knot is great for making secure anchors like the Wrap 2 Pull 1 or the Wrap 3 Pull 2. You will be able to locate most of the knots we've talked about at website www.animatedknots.com. Once you pull up the Animated Knots website, you can click on the Rescue tab and click on Find Knot and locate the knot by name. Animated knots may have different names than what the book is referencing. Located to the right is a reference list of the knots that are labeled differently from your book. This concludes Chapter 6 and knots. Please take a moment to review the next several slides, paying particular attention to the summary. Thank you.